So the whole point of this video is to explain arrays for use in Unreal Engine 5. So we're going to be focusing on the existing TArray functionality that exists within the Unreal Engine. I think it's important to start with what is an array. Simply put, an array is a way to store data. And the way that we're going to store this data is we have to think about it in terms of a memory block. The way that I was always told to think about it is it's like a train. In a train, the train is always a fixed size, and each card on the train is going to hold some specific item. And all of the items on the train as a whole are related to each other. So looking at this example that I'm drawing here, we have an array that has 4 indexes. But since we're in computer science, we have to start counting at 0. Now, when I say that all of the members of the train need to relate to another, what I mean by this is you cannot have a number in the same array that there is also a character. This would not fly. But what is allowed is to have an array of numbers. So we could have 1, 2, 3, and 4. And these could be related to difficulty settings. So let's say that this would be like enemy speed. Then as we progress through the game, we could be moving from index 0 to index 1 to index 2 as we're progressing the difficulty of our game. Now, to make an array in Unreal Engine, we need to go through and create a TArray object. To make a TArray, we are going to call the TArray object name, and then we're going to give it the type, and then we're going to give it a name. This type here would be something like integer, or any other object that we would like to have stored in the array. Now, unlike in other coding languages, the arrays inside of Unreal are called dynamic. This means that your array can grow or shrink as it's needed and as you add or remove things from your array. So how do we populate an array? We could call a function called init, which is short for initialize. And in this case, we would pass in 2 values. First, the value that you'd want to place in the array, followed by how many times you'd like it to appear. So if we called name.init with 10 and 5, this would create an array, and this array would be 5 long, and each member of the array would be the number 10. And as I was mentioning before, this will only work if the type is compatible with 10. For instance, if this was an array of strings, we would need to put quotation marks around 10 in order for the 10 string value to be compatible with a 10 string array. So it's always important to remember the type that you are referencing. Now, that's a good way to get everything organized at the beginning, but what if we wanted to add things during the game? We could use something like add. Add is an array function that's going to add something to the end of your array. So if we draw our array again, and let's say this is an array of integers and we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. If we call this add function here, and then we're going to add the number 5, then this would take the number 5 and add it to the end of our array. So our array would expand and we would get the number 5 added to the end of our array. Using the add function would be an interesting way to keep track of enemies that are spawning into your world. This would allow you to know exactly how many enemies are present. So that's how we add. What about removal? There's a few different ways we can do this. Let's draw up a sample array, again, of numbers for simplicity. There's a few different ways we can remove items from an array. First is going to be the .remove function. So when we call remove, we're going to be giving in the exact value that we want to remove. So if we call remove 20 off of the array that we're caring about, then we're going to search through the array and remove all values that have this key value that we are providing. Now, if we expand our array here and add another duplicate value, the remove function would remove both. But if we go and look at another function, which is .remove single, and we give in the same key value, remove single would only look and remove the first key value that it finds, and it would leave the other ones untouched. Now, these are all searching off of some sort of key value that we've been talking about, but what if we want to remove a specific index? And if you remember, index is what I was talking about briefly before, where each number here has a hidden value called an index that they're used for sorting purposes. Now, if we want to remove something at a certain index, we get to use the function remove at. And if we put remove at 2, this is going to take the second index, or this 15, and then remove it. And then after it removes that, every other index is going to move back 1 so that there's no blank space. Now, it's important to note here that you might want to use another function called isValidIndex to first check if this index exists in the array. Because if we called isValidIndex on 99, well, this would fail. This would say false because 99 doesn't exist in our array. But if we try to remove at an index that doesn't exist, it's going to cause errors and make your life really messy. So that's the basics of arrays. Remember, you're going to be using the TArray in order to make and store your different arrays. And every different TArray needs a type and a variable name. Whenever you want to add or do anything to your specific array, you're going to call that variable name and then different functions off of them, such as add, if you want to add to the array, or remove, if you want to remove a certain key value, or if you have indexes in mind, you can use the remove at. I hope this little primer of arrays proves useful to you as you go and continue to learn the Unreal Engine. There are a ton of resources online for understanding the concept of arrays more, but I will not be going into more detail into that myself because I'm not a computer science teacher. If you want to see me review more fundamental concepts like this, please leave a comment and let me know that this is appreciated and I can continue to do so. Otherwise, have a fantastic day and I will see you next time.